you lay down? Good girl. Hi everyone, welcome back to Novel Idea. My name is Dia, and today we need to close out June. I read a lot in June. Don't ask me what was different because I was still busy. I was very busy. Anyway, I think I read around 25, and I'm not going to go over all of them. I will go over most of them, but not all of them. So without further ado, let's jump in and wrap up the month of June. If you can't see her, but Poppy's down here, so you might hear her. First one I want to talk about is The Mystery of Edwin Drood. This is by Charles Dickens. It was on my classic list to read in 2025. And I have another book that I'll be wrapping up at the end of July that goes along with this. And I wanted to reread this so that when I was reading the other one, I would have a good idea of what they were talking about. Come to find out, I didn't actually need to do that because many of the chapters in here are reprinted in the book that I was reading along with this. But I'm still really glad that I reread it. It's still one of my favorite Dickens. I really, really liked it. I wish he would have had the opportunity to finish it, of course, but it was still such a good story and so different from what I'm used to from Dickens. So, excellent start to the month. Then I read Wormwood Abby. This is by Chrstine Baehr, and this was given to me by my niece. She wanted me to read it. She already has book number 2 ready for me. I really enjoyed it. When it said that it had a Christian bent to it, I was a little concerned because I don't usually get along with Christian fiction. They're just very formulaic. This one exceeded my expectations, and that is saying quite a lot for a Christian fiction book. We are following a clergyman's daughter who is going back to their kind of family seat. They are landed gentry, and she's going back because her uncle and aunt have died and her cousins are basically left alone there. And so her mother and father and herself are going to go and stay at this abbey that they have been the family that takes care of it for generations upon generations. And she begins to uncover some secrets while she is there. You can kind of get the gist of maybe what one of those secrets might be. But there are some twists, and there are some wonderful reveals, and I just really enjoyed it. I didn't expect much when I started, like I said, but it definitely was way better than I thought it was going to be. So I'm looking forward to book 2. Next, with Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia, I read Sarah Orne Jewett's Country of the Pointed Firs. This is a series of vignettes about this author who is visiting, I don't remember the name of the town, but it's a little tiny town on the Maine coast where she is just there for the summer and is staying, renting a house or renting a room from one of the inhabitants of the town, and just about how their relationship develops, but also her relationship with the town's people, and with the islands themselves. And it was nice. It was not the beautiful story that Tiffany and I were expecting. It's a very nice story or set of stories. They are all interconnected in the fact that most of them are about the author, the narrator of the things. Like, they're almost like her journal entries, and they are about the same area, and one summer. There were a couple of people that we connected with, but for the most part, it's a cast of characters that you just don't get to know well enough, or you don't get to know the important things about them in order to be able to develop that relationship. So this was a bit of a disappointment, to be honest. Then I read Daughter of Time. This is by Josephine Tay, and this is like the 5th or 6th book in her Inspector Grant series. You can read them individually. You do not need to read them beginning to here. I started here, and this is one of the best mysteries I have ever read. I enjoyed this so much, and it is a historical mystery. So he has had something happen. Inspector Grant has had something happen to him, and he's going stir crazy in his hospital bed. And his best friend brings him just a set of pages with different faces on them from history. And some of them he knows, but most of them he doesn't recognize right off the bat. And he comes to a portrait of Richard III. And when he comes to it, he is thinking that it is the portrait of a priest or a portrait of someone who has a lot weighing on them. But he doesn't see a criminal, and he doesn't see somebody who is committing crimes. He doesn't see somebody evil when he sees it. And Richard III is well known for being evil. And so he begins to investigate what it is that he sees in this portrait that nobody else seems to remember in history, and why they don't remember it. So it was wonderful. I absolutely loved it. And I even ordered off of eBay another Josephine Tay Inspector Grant. I don't remember which one it is, but I wanted to read another one, see if I like others as much as I like this one. Then I read In the Hand of the Goddess. This was for our Tortol Along. And this is the second book in the Song of the Lioness series. And I will actually be discussing this on Saturday or Sunday with Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space and Victoria from A Musical Bookworm. And so I'm going to save my thoughts on In the Hand of the Goddess for the live show. So please come and listen to us. Give us your thoughts if you read it with us. I completed this book. It is Land of Childhood by Claudia Lars. It is I want to say Ecuadorian, but that's not right. El Salvador. It's an El Salvadorian author, and this is simply about her childhood in El Salvador as a mixed race girl. Her mother was El Salvadorian and her father was Irish American. I thought this was going to be a very gentle, very kind, the almost fairy tale-esque from the cover here. It just looks very idyllic. And so I thought that it was going to be like that. And there are a lot of prejudices and a lot of just discrimination, negativity, hatred, and that kind of thing that is portrayed in many of her memories. And I found myself not feeling like it was anything that I really wanted to read. Luckily, it's very short. I want to say it's like 96 pages. Yep, 96 pages. And it's just, like I said, luckily it was short. I got through it, but it's not one that I would recommend to anybody. I read Summer in Orcas by T. Kingfisher. Again, another disappointment. I have already gotten rid of it. In fact, I sent it off to a little free library. I don't know exactly how to put this, but it was mainly the relationship between the mother-daughter in the story that really just broke the story for me. The relationship was never healed. She went on these adventures to do these things, and she ended up never wanting to go home, and yet she had to, so she very begrudgingly does. It was just hard. It was hard to read, and I didn't enjoy it, and so I sent that one off. I didn't want it any longer. Then I read The Blood of Old Kings. This is a Korean translated fantasy. I will put the translator on the screen, and he's a famous translator, Anton somebody, I think, and I'll put a picture of it up. I got this from the library, and it was also not quite what I was expecting, but I did enjoy it. I think the translation was well done. I still feel like it's definitely a translated work. It doesn't flow quite as well, but it still is a great story. And I think it's the first in a series, or at least in a duology. And it's about a kingdom that has multiple kinds of kings within it, and how they got that power, and what that means to the common people, and what it also means when somebody is out for revenge, when someone has held power and sway over them for a very long period of time. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the next book kind of takes things. It does have some kind of body horror in it. So if that's not your thing, I would read the, cautions for the book before picking it up. But I did enjoy the story. All right, guys, so it's actually several hours later. I don't know if I look different or not, but I'm going to continue with this wrap up because I need to get it done. So it's 5:00 in the evening. I'm having my peach detox tea because that's my evening sipper. I think I left off on Blood of Old Kings. I will double check that, but I'm moving on. The next one that I finished is A Chunky Boy. It's the Histories by Herodotus, and I've been wanting to read this for a while. This was another one that was on my classics to read in 2025. I was a little intimidated by it. I didn't know how readable this was going to be, and it was very readable. It was not only readable, but it was funny. It caught me off guard several times. He is very colorful as a narrator, And this is mainly about the Greek states who don't necessarily all really like each other, coming together to finally defeat the Persians and get them out of their lives. And so that is kind of the background of everything that's going on. But he does all these little tributaries of just telling us about ancient Egypt. He does things like there's some folklore even that's kind of woven in here. So we've got our Greek myths, and the Greeks had their myths, and some of those are told by Herodotus, and they are so bizarre and just odd, and like I said, just caught me off guard. I enjoyed this so much, and I'm really, really glad that I read it. I don't know. Okay, so it does say that it was a Greek view of the world in the 5th century. So it's very, very old. You wouldn't think that it would be as easy to read as it is, but the translation is just done great. It is done by Aubrey de Sélincourt, and this is the Penguin edition. Lots of notes if you want to read them. Mine doesn't have like footnotes, which is really nice because it doesn't make me stop to read. I just have to go back to the back and look things up. But yeah, just a really wonderful blend of fact and myth. It was fabulous. I loved it. Next one is Edith Wharton Abroad. This is like excerpts from several different travel journals that she wrote. And it's really nice. I still kind of had a hard time with some of the things that she focused on. I still liked it. I will say that. It was nice. It wasn't a hard thing to get through. I did lots of highlighting. I think I'm gonna try another Edith Wharton nonfiction and see if I can't find an actual book compiled by her and not by someone else. But still, it was still a good read. I read this nightly. This is kind of my nightstand book, and it was just a nice way to end the day. And so, yeah, Edith Wharton Abroad. Then we have The Chosen. I read this with Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading, and it was my first Chaim Potok book, and I think it was her third. We had such good conversations, and there were so many good things that came out of reading this. This is absolutely going to be a favorite of the year, I think, and it was just so, it just goes to your heart so easily and so quickly. It is about two Jewish boys from different denominations or sect of Judaism, and they're both of their fathers are rabbis, and both of them, one wants to become a rabbi, the other one does not, but is going to anyway. And the way that they become friends and the things that Chaim Potok brings to the forefront of this story is absolutely incredible. It's mainly, I think, about the way that we perceive things in our own life, in our friendships, in the relationship to our parents, or our parents' relationship with one another, or our relationship with the greater world. And individual groups within that world and how they see each other. And there was so much that he had to say on sight and seeing and looking deeply at something, studying something. And it just challenged me. Every single chapter challenged me in some way. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. We are with two 13-year-old boys, neither of which are thinking about girls, neither of which are worried about puberty or hormones or any of that kind of thing. And that was refreshing in and of itself. But the other things that I loved about this were just these two very, very, very different boys, and how they were able to see what they believed in the other person and not like push them to believe the same way, just accept them as they came. And so that was really beautiful. It's written impeccably. I just loved it. I think that it was a hard book to read with everything that's going on in Israel. So it was difficult, but at the same time, it was wonderful. And it made me kind of want to take a step back and not look at things just from my own perspective. How can I see this world and what is happening from another perspective? So, The Chosen. Then I'm gonna be flashing some up here because I have some that I don't own. The Rainfall Market. Cozy Korean translated fiction. I was not sure when it started that I was going to like it, but I did. I liked it a lot. We are with a young girl who is invited to the Rainfall Market, where there is a parallel world within the market where you can kind of gather these orbs that allow you to see what your future would be like if you got your dream to come true. And our main character, like I said, is a young girl, and she goes through all of these different scenarios of what she would like, and she has to leave by the end of rainy season, which rainy season is a real thing in Korea. I have lived through it. So at the end of rainy season, she has to leave Rainfall Market or she never gets to leave. And so she has an animal companion that goes with her throughout the time that she is there. And there's some intrigue and some other things that are happening, but it was so beautifully done, and I really, really enjoyed it. Another Sarah Orne Jewett book, mainly just because it was a single word, which I needed for my bingo board for summer book bingo, and I had it on my shelves. It also has gone on to another home, but it's called Deep Haven, and it is very similar to Country of the Pointed Firs in that it is from the perspective of two sisters who are visiting Deep Haven, Maine, and a cast of characters that they meet and interact with and get to know during their time in Deep Haven. And I thought that they were very sweet stories. They were, some of them were funny. There were one or two characters out of the huge cast that I connected with. And so not something I felt that I needed to keep. I'm keeping this one because it is illustrated. And we have wonderful illustrations by Douglas Alvord throughout the book. The other one that I had was just a mass market paperback, and I didn't need to keep it. Keys of the Kingdom by A.J. Cronin. This is probably Cronin's least known book, and yet it's the only one that I knew anything about. And the reason why I knew about it was because this was a movie that I have seen and loved for many, many years. I think it's Gregory Peck who plays the father in this story. Yes, Francis Chisholm is his name. And this follows him from the book opens with him as an elderly man who's probably not got long before he passes away. And he is at home in Scotland, and he has a visiting Monsignor come to evaluate whether he should be put into a home for the, aging reverends. And so anyway, this is the story of his childhood. That Monsignor basically goes and opens up Father Chisholm's diaries, and they go clear from the time that he is a very young boy all the way up until the current day. And he stays up all night reading them. And the book is what he is reading. And I just love this story. Yes, there is a missions element to it, but that's not what the story is about. This story is about these two friends and their lives diverging in a very major way, and yet they never lose love for one another, and they never let the other's heart go. They always keep hold of it, and it's so beautiful. And as a result of that happening for Francis from a very young age, he does that with so many other people in his life. And it's just this constant, unfolding of what it looks like to just continue to love in spite of everything, or, without circumstances playing into whether you love someone or not. So really liked it a lot. This was my first read of it. I have seen the movie many, many times. All right. Okay, you're gonna need to lay down. Good morning, everybody. It is a new day. I still didn't get everything recorded before I got interrupted again yesterday. So we are picking up where we left off. I look very similar, I think, to what I was wearing yesterday. It's 4th of July weekend, Independence weekend, and I have been dressing patriotically. So it's actually really cold here this morning, and so I've got a sweatshirt on. We are nearing the end. So Oh, Poppy wants to play. Let me put this up so that we don't keep getting interrupted. Okay, next one I wanted to tell you about, also one I got from the library. It's called Second Chance Convenience Store. And I don't have the author written down, so I will make sure to pop up a picture. This was, I was hoping for a cozy translated Korean book. I should know better. There aren't very many cozy Korean translations out there. The storyline is about an elderly woman who owns a convenience store, and she has lost her bag with all of her very important papers in it, as well as some money. And while she is trying to figure out where it has disappeared to, she gets a call from someone who sounds probably drunk, and they have found her bag and have given her a call so that they can return it to her. So she goes to meet them. And in the process of all of this, she keeps hearing him say that he has to do the right thing. He just has to. And she ends up hiring him to work at her convenience store. And so it's the story of the other person that works at the convenience store, this man that has been hired, and this elderly woman and that owns the convenience store. And then just kind of the way that their lives intertwine, and the way that they help each other and help those around them. And it sounds like it would be such an uplifting and inspirational and cozy kind of book, but it is not. It has some very dark themes. They're not front and center all the time. Most of the time it's a mystery as to why these people are the way that they are, and the things that are going on in their life that they really need to like overcome, and that kind of stuff is not the majority of the book. However, it is there, and those things are quite difficult. Don't expect cozy, and maybe you'll like it better than I did, but I just found myself walking away feeling very I don't want to say depressed, but it was deflating. Let's put it that way. And I just felt very almost like I was in a stupor. Like I had just woken up from a sleep and I was groggy. I walked away from it not feeling like there was a good resolve. Next book was Sunrise on the Reaping. This is a prequel, sequel to the Hunger Games trilogy. It's going all over BookTube, so I'm sure that you've already heard about it from others. I will say that I enjoyed learning more about Hamish and about his year, and meeting some of the other characters that we had only barely heard about. I don't think I'll ever pick it up again. I'll just leave it there. It was not a favorite book by any means, but I still enjoyed it enough to keep reading, and I thought that there were some, like I said, some things that really stood out and were of value in the story, but there were just some things that detracted from that as well. I read The Hole, also a library book, and the whole was weird. It was so weird. Another translated Korean work, and it was about a woman who leaves the city with her husband to move into the countryside, where her in-laws live, where her husband grew up, and she doesn't gives up her job because her husband is getting a pay raise and moving up in the company and needs to be closer to that, so that's the reason why they are leaving. And their in-laws are letting them stay in their little guest house for free so that they can save up, you know, for their future. And it's just basically about this city girl who now has to live in this very rural countryside area, and kind of how she copes with that and almost goes insane from not being around constant activity and going to work and doing these kinds of things. So anyway, it was weird. It was so strange. Yeah, I can't say that this is one I'll ever want to reread either. Little tiny book though. Wasn't hard to get through. I read lots of cozy mysteries, and I'm not going to go over them all, but I will tell you that I read 3 of the Paint and Shine mystery series by Cheryl Holland, and I also read 2 of her Web Glass mystery series, and then 2 Eve Calder mysteries and 1 of the Garlic Farm mysteries, which I cannot remember who the author of that series is. All of it will be up here on the screen. So, needless to say, I read a lot of cozy mysteries, and it was kind of in between some of the heavier works or the larger works that I was reading. So, there you go, my friends. I think that is everything. I would love to know if you have read any of these books, if you agree with my opinions of them. So, there you go. That was my June. I hope that July is off to a great start for all of you, and that you are in sunshine wherever you are. Okay, I'll see you again in another video very soon. Do you want to say goodbye? You want to come say goodbye? No? Not happening. Okay, bye everyone.